Hi everyone, today we are going to learn how to belly bind. I know that you guys have been anticipating this module forever and we are finally here. Today I will be teaching you one of the styles of bengkung belly binding, which is making the knots with the short end of your fabric. And the end result will be what we see here on Lady May. So I'm going to show you how to unravel this bind, and then we will start from scratch and we will do it together, and you'll see kind of how long it takes. And we will keep in mind all of the things that we mentioned in the previous module as to things to consider when belly binding, what to avoid, what you want to look for to make sure that you are doing it correctly and that your client is comfortable. So let's get started. Lady May is 1 week postpartum. She still has a belly bump. So this is very realistic, and our clients will still have somewhat of a bump after having their babies. And with belly binding, that bump will reduce faster than it would on its own. So we're going to start by unraveling the fabric, just so you can see what it's like and what your clients will potentially have to do once they remove the belly bind. So I'm just untucking it and we just undo the knots. Before starting your bind, you want to make sure that you're not dealing with just a big bunch of fabric. So we want to prepare our fabric before binding our clients. An easy way to do this is by making a single chain with your fabric. So this fabric is already scrunched up from it being on our client, Lady May. So I'm just going to open up the fabric before making the chain. If you are good at crocheting, or even if you've done it before and you're not an expert, what we're going to do is to make a single chain braid with our fabric. So you're going to take the fabric, wrap it around your arm, and just pull the fabric in the hole that you've created. Just like that. And you keep going. This just makes the fabric more malleable and easy to move around so that your client or you are not tripping over the fabric and you're able to just move it around without feeling like it's a mess. You can also teach your clients how to do this and how to braid their fabric so that it could be easy to store for them when they're not using it or when they're not binding. Okay, so now we have our fabric in. a braided ball, this is much easier to move around while you're binding your client versus having a really long piece of fabric that is easy to trip over. And once your braid is done, it's really easy for you to pull out the fabric that you need and wrap it around your client. So we are going to start off by wrapping the fabric around our client and also measuring the length of it based on her torso length. So we're going to start like this. Remember, we're always binding our client's hips, so we are going to start from the bottom, binding from the hips to use that relaxing hormone to bring their pelvic muscles and bones in, and then going all the way up as far as we can. So as you can see here, our client's bind starts at the hips. Once it is around our client's waist, we want to make sure that the short piece of the fabric is able to go up above our client's head. So I usually go like this and have them hold it up, and this should be long enough. You then want to create a simple knot, which will be the foundation of your client's bind. So you're going to take the two pieces of your fabric, or the two ends of your fabric, and just make a simple knot like you're tying your shoes. Once you get here, you want to pull as tight as you possibly can, as this is the foundation of your bind, before you create the knots. So this is pretty tight around her hips, and we know for sure my finger can barely go through, so this is a pretty good starting point for our bind. Now, here we have a short piece where we can see the end, and the long piece which has the braid. For this method, we are going to use the short piece or the short end of the fabric to make the knots. And to do that, we're going to take the short piece and wrap it under, and over the long piece. Okay? Now, a rule of thumb, when you're making your knots, the short piece and the long piece stays home. For this demonstration, our short piece is on the right side and the long piece is on the left side. So once you're done making your knots, or for me, these two pieces will always end up on the same side after each knot. Okay? So you then are going to have your client to hold the fabric. She has no arms, so I'm just going to throw it over her shoulder. And then you want to start fanning out your fabric. Fanning out means just opening up the sides of the fabric and making sure the width is long enough to wrap around your client's body. So as we go around, we are going to fan the fabric out, and we're layering. We're not going to start up here because that's going to create a V, and she's not going to get as much support as she needs. So you're going to layer the fabric over the previous one. That will just maintain the integrity of the bind and keep it tight throughout the day. And if it loosens, all she has to do is pull the fabric down, and you will see that as we move along. So we're going around, and as you're going around, obviously you're not going to be twirling your clients. They can twirl if they want to, that makes it easier for you, but ultimately you are going to be going around your clients to make sure that every part of their body is being covered and has the same level of tension as you go around. So another rule of thumb to keep in mind is, as you're going around, the tension that you create as you're going around your client is what's going to keep the bind tight. So you're not just going to go like this and then make the knot. You have to maintain the tension to keep it tight, and that tightness will create the pressure that your client needs for their womb to shrink back into space, for their waist to cinch together and to heal, to reduce that belly, that jelly belly, and to make sure that they're feeling supported throughout the day. Once we get here, you will see that the long piece is in front of the short piece that your client is holding on to. You're going to want to take the short piece from your client and then just do the same thing we did in the beginning. Wrap it under and over the long piece. And again, we see the short piece is back on the right side, long piece is on the left side, back at home, and the client will hold this. Because I made it so tight, it doesn't even matter that she doesn't have any arms. And ultimately, that's what you want. You want it to be tight enough and secure so that your client doesn't have to pull up for it to be tight. Now we're just gonna do the same thing all the way around. So again, we're layering. We're layering and fanning out the fabric. We're also applying tension. And once we get to the bottom, another rule of thumb is to make sure that you're not having gaps in between your knots, okay? You want to make sure that the knots are stacked one on top of each other and that they're going in a straight line, creating a secondary spine for your client for them to feel supported. If you start the knot up here, you have a gap. And this is what your client will look like. We don't want that. When you're starting your knot, you want to make sure that you're starting it right above the previous one before you continue. That will just ensure that you're using all of the fabric, that your client won't have any gaps and any of their belly spilling out into the gaps, and that it can last for the 8 to 12 hours that they are recommended to wear it. So just like before, we're going to take our short piece and wrap it under and over the long piece. So far, they are stacked one on top of each other. And we're going to layer the fabric and pull. One thing you want to keep in mind and always use in practice is as we're going around, we want to make sure that our client is comfortable. At this point, they should be saying, "Oh, this feels good. Actually, I feel like it's bringing my hips and I feel like it's bringing my waist, and this feels really good." Or if they're not saying anything or they're making like little noises or showing any signs of discomfort, as we discussed in the contraindications module or lesson, we want to make sure that they're comfortable. Belly binding should not be painful. It should feel really good. And you want to make sure that your clients are not expressing any signs of discomfort, because at that point we will need to stop, ask them what they're feeling, and make recommendations as necessary if they need to see their healthcare provider or a physical therapist. So as I'm going through, I always ask my clients, like, how does this feel? Does this feel better? Is it too tight? Do you want me to loosen it up? So on and so forth. me personally, I've noticed that belly binding when my client has just eaten or had a meal can be very uncomfortable. So most times I belly bind my clients before they eat. Yeah, practicing belly binding right before you eat is best and will make them feel more comfortable, because imagine wearing a waist trainer on a full stomach. That's uncomfortable. So you want to make sure that you let them know, like, hey, I'm coming at so and so time. You might want to wait to eat until after you belly bind, just so it can be comfortable for you. Okay, so now because she has this bump, and for women who are belly binding when they're pregnant, this will be a similar process, but it's just that we won't put as much tension and they won't be as tight. So you see here, there's a gap. We have this gap mainly because Lady May has no booty and it's just flat, but also because of the bump in the front. So when your clients are freshly postpartum, you will have a little bit of gap sometimes, and you may have to go around this area more than twice, sometimes maybe 3 times, more than once, twice, sometimes 3 times, just to make sure that the fabric isn't digging into their skin, especially if you have a client who has a really deep arch in her back above her bum. You want to go around this area multiple times just to make sure that the fabric isn't digging into her back and making her uncomfortable, but to also make sure that she is feeling the support in her back and the bind is providing support that will relieve back pain. And this is the end of our long piece. So it comes to a point where the short piece becomes the longer piece of fabric and the long piece becomes the short piece. At this point, you want to make a simple knot the same way we began. We want to end our bind. So you're going to take your long piece, now turn it to the short piece and make a simple knot to secure the bind. Then whatever remaining fabric, you just tuck it into the sides, and you can wrap this around your client and then tuck it as well. And this is how we belly bind our clients, making the knots with the shorter piece. As you can see in the back, there are several layers on Lady May. If your client feels any discomfort as they're sitting and moving around, you just recommend that they pull these layers down to tighten the fabric and give them more comfort. So you just pull these down. When they have to use the bathroom, they'll just lift this up, pull it back down, and also pull down the layers above that first layer to tighten everything up, and they can wear it all day. So in the next lesson, we will learn how to make those knots and to belly bind using the long piece of our fabric. This method is best for any of our clients who want to belly bind underneath their clothing and doesn't want it to be shown. The knots go inward, so they're very smooth. And in the other style of binding, you will notice that when the knots are made with a longer piece of fabric, they tend to stick out. So that style can be worn outside of their clothing, over a t-shirt, over a sweater, over a dress. This one can be worn on the outside too, but it's mainly, it can be recommended and good for those moms who want to wear the belly bind under their clothing. Thank you guys so much for watching this lesson. I know that you were looking forward to this lesson for the longest, but we had to go through a lot of the theory first so that you can know how to belly bind safely and all of the information that you need to provide your clients. So I'll see you guys soon.